Humphrey.
Present.
Ms. Williams. Mr. Neal.
Present.
Ms. Patton.
Present.
Mr. Roberts.
Present.
Mr. Pettit.
Present.
Mr. Hodges.
All right, do we have four?
Yes, we have a quorum.
Okay, can we stand for the pledge of allegiance? Flag flies. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item we have 2.01, which is public recognition. Do we have public recognition?
appreciation for our dedicated volunteers last month. And we wanted to make sure that we did that work, because we understand these are volunteers. They do not get paid for this work, and it's way more than 2 or 3 hours that they have to tell them to decide. So, just want to make sure that we recognize for all the things that you do for our students. Sarah Foster is not here. As president, as vice president, Mike Jones, director, Valerie Catton, director, Anthony Neal, director, Ronald Roberts, secretary and treasurer, Sheila Williams, vice president, and William Humphrey, president. At your seats, there were also handmade thank you notes from the students. And we had posters that some of the schools had made posted in the boardroom back in administration building. But since you moved here, I took some photos so you can see some of the things that the students made for you guys to show their appreciation as well. But on behalf of the students, families, and staff, I want to thank you all for everything that you've done for me, that you may want to continue to do. Thank you. Thank you.
solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Missouri, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of a member
of a member
of the Normandy Joint Executive Governing Board
of the Normandy Joint Executive Governing Board
for the Normandy Schools Collaborative
for the Normandy Schools
to
Collaborative
the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability
according to law.
according to law.
Congratulations, you were sworn. Come forward, please. You can face anyone you want.
I guess he just turned it off. I guess he just turned it off.
So that's not a bad choice. I'm glad.
I switched it over here.
Make sure you
This is
write.
where now changes.
All right. Lift the right hand. I, Harlan Hodge,
I, Harlan Hodge,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Missouri,
and the Constitution of the State of Missouri,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of a member
of a member
of the Normandy Joint Executive Governing Board
of the Normandy Joint Executive Governing
for
Board
the Normandy Schools Collaborative
for the Normandy Schools
to
Collaborative
the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability
according to law.
according to law.
Congratulations, sir. You are sworn. President, come here, go back.
Well, at this particular point in the agenda, we're at 4.03, and it says the election of board officers. And basically what happens at this point is by board policy, after every election of board members of the board, because this is the first time we're actually bringing them to board members, we'll have an opportunity for the board to weigh in on the board leadership, the position of president, vice president, secretary, treasurer. So with that being the case, I now yield the floor to Superintendent Robinson, and he will prepare for the election of president.
Thank you, Mr. Humphrey. At this point, all offices are vacant for the Joint Executive Governing Board of the Normandy Schools Collaborative. The floor is open for nominations for President of the Joint Executive Governing Board.
I nominate Ron Robinson.
Robinson, you said the nomination. Are there other nominations for President? Are there other nominations for President? Are there other nominations for President? At this point, I'll entertain a motion to close nominations.
So,
To a second.
second.
Nominations for President have been closed. Ronald Roberts has been nominated. I will take a roll call vote. Ms. Patton?
Yes.
Ms. Pettit? Dr.
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Ms. Hodge?
Yes.
At this point, I will the affirmative vote, turn the nominations and the election over to our new president, Mr. Ronald Roberts.
Now, I will move forward with nominations for Vice President of the Joint Executive Board. Ms. Valerie Patterson is nominated for the President and Vice President, position of Vice President of the Board. I entertain a motion. Are there any other nominees for Vice President? Are there any other nominees for Vice President? Are there any other nominees for Vice President? Ms. Patton, will you accept the nomination for Vice President of the Board? I do. Ms. Patton has accepted the nomination. I'll make a motion to move.
So moved.
It's been moved and properly seconded that Mr. Patrick be accepted as Vice President of the Board. Roll call vote now. Ms. Patton?
Yes.
Dr. Petty?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Yes.
Mr. Williams? Yes. Mr. Howard?
Yes.
Unanimously decided and voted that Ms. Valerie Patton is, yes, one vote. Oh, you did myself. Mr. Roberts, that will be yes. We'll proceed with the opening for nominations for the Secretary Treasurer for the Joint Executive Board. Floor is now open.
I nominate Harlan Hodges.
Harlan Hodges has been nominated for Secretary Treasurer of the Joint Executive Board. Second time. Mr. Harlan Hodges has been, are there any other nominations? Nominees? Are there any other nominees? Are there any other nominees? With that, I will make a motion to accept the nomination. And properly seconded that Mr. Harlan Hodges be elected as Secretary Treasurer of the Joint Executive Board. My roll call vote. Do you accept the nomination?
I accept.
Mr. Harlan Hodges has accepted the nomination. My roll call vote. Ms. Patton?
Yes.
Dr. Petty?
Yes.
Mr. Neal? Yes. Ms. Williams? Yes. Mr. Roberts, yes. Mr. Howard?
No. That doesn't change it, right?
No, it doesn't.
What to you? I respectfully yield the floor back to Mr. Humphrey to continue with the board agenda.
Okay, the next item, well, first of all, I would like to congratulate the board leadership. And one thing that I'm really excited about is as we had this election, we had unanimous support for all board members. So, as the outgoing president, I assure you that I will give you 100% of my support to ensure that you're successful in whatever your endeavor is. And so if you have a question, I want you to feel free to ask, I'm going to answer these questions. So, that being the case, we'll move forward with the agenda. At this point, we're at 4.04, which is the NSC Superintendent search. And what I'm going to do is have Mr. Steve Rutherford come fully through. He's with the NSBA, the Board Association, and he will be the gentleman that will be working with us on the superintendent search process. So he's going to spend a few minutes talking with us about his level of engagement with us.
Thank you so much.
I'm so glad to have the opportunity to be here. I'm just going to take a couple minutes to introduce myself. Share the process with you, and then we're going to talk a little bit about dates. I know you have a lot on your agenda, so we won't be going too deep tonight. So on behalf of the Missouri School Boards Association, thank you for giving us the opportunity to work with your district. I'll have to say, back in the 80s, back when I was a student at Harris Stowe, was my first encounter with Normandy because I student taught at Garfield Elementary in Normandy. Most recently, I retired 4 years ago. I was superintendent in the Acton School District. Prior to that, I was assistant superintendent in Bayless, doing some work as a principal in Melville, assistant principal in Melville, and a teacher in Melville. So I've been in public school for a long time. Been doing searches since retirement, and I've also worked for Washington University, their Institute for School Partnership, assisting some schools in St. Louis City. I'm assigned to Merrimack Elementary in South City, Ashland in North City, and Carver over by Powell Hall, and I work with the principals and leadership teams there to develop some strategic planning. So that's what I've been doing since retirement. For all of you, what I just passed out was a search responsibility and proposed timeline. It's a quick, down and dirty graphic organizer of the work that we do. So if you look across the top, you'll see the process with a little semicolon after that, or a colon after that. If you go across the top, that's what I want to cover quickly tonight. There are 6 steps to the superintendent search process with the Missouri School Board. The first one is developing a needs assessment, or talking to you and your community about what is the fit that you want to see in the superintendent that's going to lead the Normandy School District. The second piece talks about how we recruit. The third one is the evaluation process, of really taking all of those people that apply and looking at the fit and coming up with who you want to move forward to actually interview, which brings us to the next process, which is interviewing. Once you've decided who you want to offer that position to, the fifth process is the employment process, and that's the process of contracting with that person that you select through the interview process. And then the last thing is MSBA offers a team building workshop for board relationships and superintendent relationships as you hire a new superintendent. If you want MSBA to come and work with you and the superintendent on how you might move forward as a team to cover all of the goals of the Normandy School District. And as I'm going to try and go relatively quickly, I wanted to go over the needs assessment piece in particular. And I think you all have been given a survey as board members that you need to fill out and are due next Friday, correct?
Yes.
So that will be turned in, that'll be one piece of the needs assessment. What does the board think that they're looking for in a superintendent? You'll be asked to force rank some things and here's some open-ended comments. At the same time, we'll be working with the community. There's going to be an electronic survey that will push out to the entire community. The same thing, they'll ask them to force rank some things. And there'll be some open-ended questions that they can comment on. And I'm also going to be working to schedule a forum, a community forum, and a forum for your staff. So in the near future, we will all have a meeting where we'll get together and go over all of that survey information and talk about what is your community saying, what are you saying that you need for, as a good fit for the Normandy School District, we'll look for connections and overlaps. And that'll kind of lead us through the process as we do recruitment. Hopefully we'll have a nice, robust group of people apply. What we'll want to do is kind of hone in on what is the community saying we want to see the superintendent, who applied for that, and make some connections there so that we have the best fit for all of you. During the evaluation process, I will phone call, check references, interview all of the folks, everybody that applies, and then I will come back to you and give you some feedback on everything that I found out about all of those folks, and then you as a board will decide if you want to move forward for the interview process. Try to customize the process as much as we can when we get to the interview process. I will work with you on what are the questions that you want to ask. We work with the superintendent standards, so we'll want to hear people have, they should know something about budget, they should know something about curriculum, they should know something about community relations. But there might be some things that are specific to Normandy that came up in that fifth piece that we want to develop some questions around as well. So we'll go ahead and interview, and we'll have a superintendent. It sounds really easy, but that's really the process in a nutshell. The difficult part is at the end of the year here, I know we're all going to be be busy. We're going to have to coordinate some calendars. So I've been talking to the office staff. We've already done some great work. They've turned in information for a brochure, a flyer. We'll use that information to populate the posting, which is already posted so people can start applying. But some specifics that posting will happen as soon as tomorrow. Because of the information they gave, we'll be able to mail some flyers out to constituent groups like current superintendents, assistant superintendents, folks in education that might be interested in applying for a superintendent position. And also push that information out to an SBA website and state companion website. There's 40 other states that work with Missouri school boards where we can push that search link out to them as well. So that is kind of really quick overview of the process. So I'll stop and see if you have any questions.
Any questions? Thank you very much. We look forward to working with you.
Look forward to working with you all as well. Thank you.
The next item on 4.05 is the municipal price recommendation. Now, this particular information that's before us, probably for the last several weeks, Sheila Williams and I have been meeting with the municipal partners, and with some of the mayors from the 24-1 community. And from that meeting, they brought forward 3 recommendations that I want to bring to the board's attention. And once we hear them, we can determine whether or not we want to make any of them actionable or if we need to have additional study on them before we make any kind of substantive decision. And so generally, the first recommendation says that we're asking that the community would form an advisory committee to the board that would consist of students, teachers, parents, community leaders, and clergy. The second item that they have as a recommendation, and it should be in your folders, is one of our first improvement for students reading and math. And they said we have contacted Smart Kids Inc. who were willing to work under the umbrella of the Norman School District with support from Washington University Council and Harris Fellow. The third item was, in our discussion, we found that there's a gap in behavioral health for students within the Norman School District. The Paul Children's Fund, along with several other agencies, will assist in bringing behavioral health programs for all students. So I guess having read those recommendations, is there any discussion about any of those recommendations, or do you have any recommendation one way or the other, how we should handle those matters at this time? Any discussion? Is there any discussion about the recommendations for the municipal partners? That's why what we will do.
As a reading regards, the recommendation as a reading regard in terms of the selection, how long is being selected for this advisory.
Well, at this particular point, there has been no conversation around it. Right now, the only conversation is in concept, because historically, or right now, there's currently a community advisory group, and that group is specifically reported to the superintendent, and it's around the facilities issue, whether or not we have the interest and or the capacity to go out to the voters again for a capacity bond issue. So that community advisory group has been meeting. They've come out here, they've looked at the Norman facility, they visited 3 or 4 or 5 other locations that have theaters to get kind of a concept idea of what might be possible. And so that group at some point would come back and advise either Marcus or whoever would become the superintendent, whether or not there's community capacity to support a tax increase bond issue. So that's one community advisory, and in particular, they're wanting this community advisory to be recommendations to the board itself. So with the suggestion, Sheila Williams, what I would do, let's table this. Oh, was there something on this thing?
Yes.
Okay.
What costs are involved?
Right now, at this point, I'm not sure what cost. At this point, they were simply bringing forward some recommendations they wanted us to consider. And at this point, no commitment has been made to expend any dollars from the district. But what we'll do is allow us to have more intentional review and study of these items. I'll take the item now, and I'll pass it out to you, and at some point, when you think it's appropriate, you can bring it up on the future agenda
we can have whatever level of discussion we have. Okay. Next item is 5.01, which is the status of credit recovery. Oh, I'm sorry. Before we continue, I'm sorry, Ms. Williams had asked me if I could kind of go back a little bit. We have some students here that were for the public recognition part. We wanted to make sure we gave them the space to do the proper recognition.
Thank you, Mr. Humphrey. Very briefly, we want to thank the students and their families for coming out this evening. We have Mr. Carmelo Ivy, stand up please. Mariana Perkins, Kristen Blunt, and the SA contest winner is Carmen Jackson.
Gotta get that Kodak over there.
It's a delay, that's all.
Can y'all turn off your camera alerts, please?
Thank you, Ms. Humphrey. Per the director of the board, for continuing update relative to our credit recovery issues that open high school document, such as tonight, document, Dr. Ford will be addressing the most recent efforts toward moving our kids to the attainment level that will be necessary to improve our graduation.
All right, good evening. I'm going to use my inside team voice with you guys. It has certainly been an interesting year. When we started with a lot of deficits and credits. Is it still Amber Alert?
It's Amber Alert. It's Amber Alert.
Should I wait?
It's on other people's phone now.
It's an audience.
Okay.
You can check your phones for
Okay.
Amber Alert.
So it's kind of interesting that the Amber Alert went down, but that's kind of the condition. Yeah, but it's not. It's not. It's not?
It's on.
Oh, okay, sorry. So we have been in fix and repair status all year. Our kids came back. We had 48% of our juniors and sophomores who were credit deficient. We had 39% of our seniors who were credit deficient. So we started out with summer school, and we were able to gain some ground during summer school. But we knew we were going to be too late. Our hardest, a couple things have been rough this year. Attendance has been rough. It's been difficult to get kids productive. Fighting with kids about getting off their phones is like weaning a baby on a bottle. There's some crying, some kicking, and some screaming that kids do every day when we get down to this thing about productivity and work. But we try to do some things to really change culture and get kids serious about earning credits. One of the major things we did was change the requirement for what you can do to participate in activities. So that lit the fire under some kids because they wanted to participate in senior activities. I have students emailing me now because there's a trip on this Friday or any activities that they had. We told students they had to make sure that they were earning credits and that they were making progress. So that has been useful. Can we go to the next slide? Currently, we have 151 seniors between CASA and the high school. We currently, NHS and CASA collectively have 101 students who are on track to graduate if they pass every class this semester. So those are students who have 20.5 or above credits who are in the right categories to graduate. So we have 101 of that 51. CASA and NHS and CASA, we have 16 students that are enrolled in credit recovery that will need to attend summer school in order to graduate in May or June. So we started out with a list of students who were green, students who were yellow, green, yellow, students who were red, and students who were blue. The students who were green were students who were on track. The students who were yellow, and we've had a lot of growth in our yellow category, students who were way off track but have taken advantage of the evening program that we have Monday through Thursday. Some of them have taken advantage of brain breakfast. We also broke the last semester down into 5-week sessions of ways for students to earn credits. And we have also implemented Saturday and Sunday school. So some of us work 7 days this week. So Dr. Ryder was here, Dr. Floyd was here teaching math, Ms. Clark was here, we were making phone calls, calling families, calling kids. And those efforts have been going on all year. Ms. Clark even went to go pick up kids who got 9 students to show up on Saturday and 8 students to show up on Sunday. We have about 40 kids that attend our evening program, and they come in the evening and they get some additional support that they need. So it's been an effort all year. We have every quarter to communicate with families about the status of their students' graduation and where they currently are. So we have those kids in the middle that those 16 kids who are currently yellow, but if they turn on the team and earn those credits, they can graduate between May or June. And I hope that in the next 5 weeks we get those kids to where they can march in May. NHS and CASA collectively have 9 students who must attend summer school in order to graduate in the summer. And then we have 25 students who are CASA and NHS collectively who will need to attend for a 5th year or enroll in some other alternative program. Of those 25 students, 8 of those students are CASA students and 17 are NHS students. And so that's where we are with that. We have been in contact with Job Corps, kids who are, we have some kids who have half a credit, some kids who are significantly below, who will not get active, will not be engaging. So we are trying to look for those alternatives for them. I know we had a discussion about CASA. We have to move the CASA program to the high school, which is bringing some extra support to that program. But we really need to think collectively what we want that program to look like next year. Some of the things that I've been exploring is usually opportunities, another way to get kids through, but we know we've got some research and some more work to do. We get reports daily, this data changes daily, weekly. We have people currently who assign courses, who give us updates about where kids are in those courses, and they come through every day. So it's a lot of information, and so we have to take the time to corral it. We can corral it up until the last minute. Even today, we had a student fall off of our report because either they met the 15 days of not being in attendance or something else happened, when they fell off of our books. And so we're tracking those students down, finding those students so that they don't become a negative finish, because our graduation rate is based on whatever the original cohort was when they came in as freshmen. And so we know from that period of time, I wasn't here at the time, but we know that we had some students fall off or whatever. So it's in our best interest to get that 151 students graduated as fast as we possibly can. So that's what I would like to talk about that. So I have courses, and I dropped in the spreadsheets from our Edmonton program. Edmonton is our credit recovery program, where students can get on those programs and earn their credits in real time. So we have high school opportunities, which is an actual class during the school day, in addition to those extra times where students can go in and enroll in more than one course at a time to try to see that and improve that credit recovery. So during first semester, students earned 23.5 credits that were lost. So what that means is that the classes it takes a whole year to earn one credit. So that means that there were 47 semester courses completed, but that equaled 23.5 credits. And the second semester so far, and we're not at the end, students have earned 66 credits, which is 132 semester courses that kids have completed up until this point today. As of 4/11, so as of yesterday. Any questions?
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm not.
Okay, I was gonna let you go back to work.
Right. So, one of the things we want to start with is plan ahead, and I know that Sheila had questions. So strategies that we currently have in place, like I said, the counselors are meeting with students and their families and reviewing transcripts. We have a transcript audit that we're doing. Our counselors have been instructed to do a simple tally so that we know which courses we need to offer in the summer and the courses that we need to offer in person in the fall, in combination with the materials that are online. Students are notified about Saturday school, evening school, night school. Sharika does a great job of pushing that information out. You might be getting the blast because I started getting on my phone a million times, and when they don't show up on Saturday morning at 8 o'clock, I'm on my phone texting Sharika, can you send the meeting? And so we've gotten some traction that way. HSO, we have students who got into this high school opportunities class, and we have that now. And I know one of the questions that Ms. Sheila had was the graduation coach position, which we would like to have next year. Currently, we have our librarian working at that capacity, where she's managing the data about how students are earning credits, and she's putting students into classes because we have a library right now. So we are using every able body in the body, every FTE to work on whatever, so people get a little bit upset, but whatever position I can put you in to help kids move forward, that's what we have done. What we really like to see is somebody who owns credit recovery and credit acquisition for kids, because this is not going to be a power that's going to go away soon. Like I said, we have several freshmen, several sophomores, several juniors who were already trying to work with and be proactive about earning those credits. But we're going to need somebody that's going to own all those pieces of data, because right now there's several people working on it. We need that one central person who's going to be responsible for that data. Because we're going to have to, Crystal just traumatized me this week and sent me the 8th grade reading data. So we have, because of the pandemic, the kids have been out for so long, about 80% of those kids are 2 to 3 grade levels below.
I would say,
Okay, 40 to 50, but there are 80 students, Dr. Floyd and I talked about it, there are 80 students who do not read, correct? Yes, there are 80 students who do not read, so that's a lot, that's a big portion of what our freshman classes will be, so we know we're going to have to gain some ground that way too. Parents, we get every 3 weeks, parents get progress reports, so parents know how that's going, and our counselors also regularly send communication home about where kids are. So this year, we did implement an SEL curriculum. Our kids are really struggling from an social emotional standpoint. As a veteran educator of 24 years, that's a long time. Feels like yesterday that I started, but kids are coming with problems that we've never seen before. We've had issues today. So we're implementing BAR, which is a program that is based on building assets and reducing risk is what BAR stands for. So it's a team approach so that there are more people watching and helping kids go through the pathway. We also did a summer bridge this summer. It was a shorter bridge that we did with our freshmen coming in and we did orientation by grade level. This summer, we are planning to get our 8th graders here as quickly as we can. But knowing that we have other students ahead of them, we're going to need the support. We're trying to work that out with space, with us having to use CASA, and just how we provide our 8th and incoming 9th graders with some support. And so, we did the extra after-school classes in 2023. We want to create the program on the summer bridge. We also want to work towards ACT prep at 9th and 10th grade. We want to start doing retreats with our kids to help them understand what grade level standards are. We feel like our kids don't really understand and own the data until it's too late. So talking to them about careers, talking to them about pathways, talking to them about college, and having colleges explain to them what they're even looking for before we start this journey is something that we're also looking to do to be proactive about what's happening with our kids. So we're gaining momentum, and I keep telling kids it's late to turn on the scene, but we are here, and we're committed to being here and rotating and being here on Saturday and Sunday and keeping the school open as much as we can. And, when kids start to get all talking about my dad and Saturday, I said Saturday and Sunday, I said, hey, listen, this is not a gotcha. I'm not trying to fight you or punish you, but I want to give you every opportunity to get in here and get what you need. But you got to show it. And so we're working on that as you talk to people in the community. If any of you guys are good at math, anybody know math? Okay. Well, I got English and social studies, and you got science, and Dr. Floyd is here, but most of our kids are really struggling with math. If you know anybody, send them our way. We're here from A to U in both days. Questions?
Any questions? All right, we thank you for that report. We know that there's a lot of work ahead, and I think the more important thing is that as we move forward, we need to be able to look at our systems, to be able to catch kids early as opposed to late. And so the better we know our systems around looking at the data and how to identify those things, it'll put us in a better position to be more proactive. But I appreciate everything that you're doing. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
I don't want to do a lot of things that, like, what we're talking about in terms of credit recovery is not just an intervention process. So, tonight in terms of data around our students, but we still have almost half the pressure with credit revision. We're still always in the hospital. This notion of us opening early, running breakfast, credit recovery, doing it every day, having the evening, opening up on weekends, it's not always necessary. Our intention is to legitimately give kids access to the coursework that they need to graduate. It's going to take us operating as a different kind of institution, not the typical high school. And so I appreciate the creativity that's been shown so far. I'm certainly open to input from our board members and the community relative to more things that we can do to get to productivity. Full disclosure, we did discover that in some past years there was credit inflation, where instead of 2 times an earned credit, there was a yearly credit. So certainly if you stop that practice, it changes the makeup, the dynamic of how folks operate. Got hurt. That was the call we put out to all the kids in the assembly at the very beginning of the school year. Got hurt. But those from the urban areas have opportunities. We even know there's some things they can do at home. They need us for other things. They struggle with the content from the very beginning. They're not going to back to the beginning until how you want to see the next one. So it's imperative that we provide not just space, time, electricity, internet, but also a low pressure to get the help and support that's necessary for kids. So hats off to the staff members who stepped up. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter that we have estimate for intervention if you don't have staff members who will take those extra duties in order to help our kids.
The next item is 5.02,
talking about in our strategic plan is the implementation of more rigorous coursework. This is the first thing to call out. It was our top priority to get to a place where we had content that will challenge our kids to grow. As you might remember, 2 years ago, we adopted Expenditures Learning, our literacy program. We had not adopted a literacy program in 7 years. In that time, the standards have changed magnificently, so have the tests. And so our kids were lifting 5-pound weights and taking the test that was equivalent to 100 pounds. So it's imperative that we get a different type of approach to literacy. Well, at the same time, our math school is getting worse than the literacy school. So we have the double issue of trying to figure out how we can lift our kids up from a numeracy standpoint as well. That meant we had to tear down our infrastructure that we had to bring in instruction and rebuild it in such a way that we can not only bring adoption to the table, but professional development support for teachers to be able to effectively execute on that new adoption. I feel like we haven't spent much of any time talking through the architecture of what curriculum instruction has been. But I appreciate Dr. Ryder after she took the long trip to Jeff City today, coming tonight to talk through what that department looks like as we go forward. Dr. Ryder.
Good evening to the JPG meeting, Mr. Robinson and community.
Good evening.
As Mr. Robinson said, I'm Crystal Ryder, Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, and I'm here to give you an update of the C&I department structure and the impact on teaching and learning. They told me there was going to be a delay, but I think, are you going to do it from over there?
Yeah, go ahead.
Perfect. Next slide, please.
Yeah, it's
It's coming, okay. On the screen in a moment, hopefully, you can see a list of the collective goals and commitments of the department in implementing the strategic plan to improve the student outcomes. Just to highlight a couple of those, if you could like to stay here, just since I haven't clicked it. Just to highlight a couple of those. First and foremost, the department has to all be on the same page with the vision and mission of not only the Normandy Schools Collaborative, but also what we need to do and how we need to do what we need to do with our teachers and our principals in the classroom. So that really is foundationally the whole purpose of the curriculum and instruction department. On this slide, you'll notice in a moment, that just a visual representation of the department. So we have Dr. McConnell, who is our Director of Mathematics, and she oversees the K-4 math leads and 5-8 math leads to implement Navigator Math. Ms. Kate Kane is K-8 ELA, and she oversees the EL leads to implement that curriculum. And then Dr. Destiny Reddick has written and collected all of the research and evidence to support the creation of the instructional taxonomy. She also works with our teachers ministry. On the next screen, you'll see is a list of the general responsibilities of the directors. Ultimately, though, the directors are responsible for the implementation of the curriculum and the taxonomy and instructional practices with fidelity. Next slide. On this screen, you'll see a list of responsibility for the leads, and just as important as the leads need to have these skills that are listed on the screen, leads also have to build strong and collaborative relationships. They are our teachers' peers and are our greatest resource in changing instructional practices organically. Many leaders instructional practice, and sometimes that change begins with compliance. I'm sure many of us, if not all of us, have experienced that. But to really sustain change over time, folks have to internalize that change, believe in that change, and then execute what needs to be executed in order for that change to be sustained. And the leads have much responsibility in ensuring that that happens with our teachers. Next, we have leads and their essential role in the professional development. What they do daily, side by side with teachers, is the highest leverage PD practice, as the coaching is embedded throughout the instructional process. Additionally, the leads develop and facilitate PD on early release dates and after school. They have been essential this year in our work with the NSC substitutes, sustaining PD opportunities 2 evenings every week since October would have been impossible without their leadership and support. The leads work to establish a culture of learning in a variety of ways, from weekly newsletters full of reminders and celebrations of learning to side-by-side lesson internalization support, differentiating support based on what individual or groups of teachers need, based on the fidelity checklist that we use in checking that the curriculum is being implemented in the classroom. Implementing rigorous curriculum is a challenge at any time, but implementing 2 brand new curricula during a global pandemic has been a monumental task. The leads have remained flexible, nimble, and they continue to work to create processes within the curriculum that support where teachers are and their practices where they need to be, and the support and the steps that need to be taken to implement that curriculum with fidelity. And then finally, the department moving forward. We must build internal capacity to drive the curriculum. In the last couple of years, we've partnered with outside partnerships, Achievement First and School Kit. Achievement First is for Every Year Math, and School Kit is for the EL curriculum. We are at a point now to be able to wean ourselves off of that external support for School Kit with the EL curriculum due to the work of the director and the leads. And we will be in our 3rd year, 1 year though was a pilot, implementing Navigator, and it is just a lot more complex, and there are requirements of having leads in place in order to support teachers side by side with that curriculum. So we will need to continue that support for a bit longer. We must ensure the fidelity of the curriculum, and generally speaking, the taxonomy instructional practices across the board. We adopted 2 curricula. However, in every aspect of teaching and learning in every classroom, whether it's music or science or EL or math or whatever it is, the instructional practices that are happening have to be strong and consistent, and we have to be sure that we're using consistent language as to not confuse students between teacher to teacher to teacher as well. So I'll look really hard on that with the instructional taxonomy. We must continue to build systems of support and monitoring. And saying that the curriculum is complex is a bit of an understatement. So it's going to take a while to put the 2 curricula that we've adopted in place. And we will need to monitor and change things to help our teachers to implement that curriculum more successfully over time. Critical to our movement forward as a district is analyzing our student data and making sound instructional decisions based on that information. And the curriculum department and leads have to play an integral role in supporting that process within the buildings. We have to and need to desperately provide structure and support within a tiered system of intervention now that we have that foundational curriculum in place. And so we've had a team of folks working on that multi-tiered system of support the last few months with the collaboration of special school districts, and we plan to roll that out at the beginning of next year. Any questions?
Any questions? give us an update on the state presentation to the board.
Some of us have heard about it, very good. Oh, thank you. Thanks.
And what Ms. Williams was making reference to was that Dr. Ryder, Marcus Robinson, and myself, and Dr. Floyd wrote to Jefferson City this morning to get a quarterly update to the city board. And I think we accurately made what we are as a district in terms of the challenges and the kind of support we need to district. So I felt that the need that the state board was extremely clear, because I know that the comments that I had made in particular was that we need to continue to work towards getting more and more certified teachers. Right now we have a high number of subs, we're trying to work to reduce that so we can get more certified teachers for our kids. So I didn't want to just stop here. Yes.
Just a word is like when we're talking about the execution of this curriculum, we would be remiss if we just did what we did in old school instruction, which is within the adoption. Maybe one day to walk through what's given the kid. But at that point, that's it. As a young teacher, we gave them a new series. I got a textbook, I got some workbooks, I got some copy masters, and I got some tips on how I might do some instructional activities. When it comes to the level of complexity our teachers face and the teachers who read in mathematics, they need more support than that. And so, certainly, you know the curriculum is written at a high level, but it doesn't matter if our teachers are not dealing with that content. So, I applaud the folks who, within the course of 4 or 5 months, had to get their weight up on really complex curriculum to be able to support our teachers. I hope you also heard that we are moving toward inner reliance on our own folks to support our teachers, as opposed to continually reaching out to national folks to support the people we don't understand. So we have been building capacity internally to support this work on all places, but we're just at the front end. So we appreciate Dr. Ryder and the team because as much as it hurts, it doesn't. You've been used to teaching X for 10 years, and all of a sudden somebody shows up with something that's 5 times harder to teach. You would resist it. I know I would resist it. But they fight through that. So it's not always a collegial scenario. It's not always warm and welcoming. But these folks roll up their sleeves, they go into our classroom, and they make sure our teachers actually have support. So I really appreciate you.
Again, Dr. Ryder, thank you very much. And where we're on the agenda right now is 6 point. We're actually at item for consent. But before we move on the item for consent, I would ask for a motion to take item 6.03, which is the Smart Kids 8 program from the agenda. I've had conversations with the superintendent relative to that matter. And we would like to get a motion to remove it from the agenda and return it back to administration for further study. This particular MOU is actually for a pilot program which consists of like 2 groups of 4 in each of the schools. And one of the things that we talked about is trying to develop more comprehensive tools and support. Because just along from the report today, there's at least 80 kids in the 8th grade that have reading challenges. So we want to be able to take a look at how we have as an administration create a more robust and more comprehensive tutoring support program. So with that, I ask for a motion to remove that from the consent agenda so that they can do additional study. Can I get a second? And then probably move to second that 6.03 would be removed from the agenda. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Anybody contrary? Okay, as we continue down the agenda, we're now at 8.01, which is the monthly financial update. I'm sorry, before we do that, I need to have a motion to approve the consent agenda as modified. We got a second? Okay, 6.08.
6.09.
6.08, which is the thought exchange contract, 6.09, which is the contract with Navigate Wellness, and then 6.22, which is the HLP improvement agreement with Rural Educational Concepts. Can I get a motion to remove those from consideration? Okay, we got to move, who did the vote? Okay, we got to vote, motion. The second by Sheila Williams. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor? Okay, the motion passed as adopted, and so those items will go forward for additional discussion at 6.03, 6.08, 6.09, 6.22. At this point, with 8.01, which is the monthly financial update, Bill.
Should we do that? Can we approve consent agenda?
Okay, sorry about that. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda? As amended.
So moved.
Okay, we got a motion, we got a second, by Dr. Petty. Is there any discussion on that? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? All right, thank you, Alan, for the catch. Okay, we're now at 8.01, monthly financial update.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Bill Pusateri, Chief Financial Officer and Associate Superintendent for the district. Tonight, I'm going to walk you through a number of things, including the multi-year budget forecast, as we prepare for June when we approve for the board reviews next year's budget. I'm going to talk briefly about House Bill 1814 and the implications of what that could have for our district. We're going to identify a handful of budget categories and some spending trends that we've seen over a 5-year period, and also how these things might look for next year. We're going to talk a little bit about initial budget priorities for next year, and then a major project to expand West Gym. So that's kind of what the focus is going to be tonight. First, multi-year budget forecast. I want to start with revenue assumptions. We have, as I think many of us know, we have a lot of federal relief funds. We are receiving for reimbursement for expenditures, and we are going to be receiving most of them this year and next year, with very little bit remaining in 23-24. At that point, I wouldn't quite call it a fiscal cliff, but it would be a little bit helpful to think of it that way, where the federal funds are going to be running out. We can anticipate that local revenue will stay flat, and state revenue will remain the same next year due to the state making a pandemic exception to the 3-year hold harmless living. So last month, or 2 months ago when we met, I said we're going to lose about $1.2 million next year because our enrollment has gone down since 1920. But the state is making an exception because of the pandemic, so we can still claim 1920 enrollment for 1 more year, which is good news. That means we're going to have about 1.2 million more than we thought about months ago in next year's budget. However, in 23-24, if our enrollment continues to stay up at our current level, it's about 7% lower than it was in 1920. And that 1.2 million will be reducing. Also not included are any effects of House Bill 1814 if it passes. We'll talk a little bit about that. The graphic next shows revenue by source. You can see nice, steady blue trend of local funds as based on tax dollars. The orange state revenue, you can see starting to shrink a little bit, and that's really tied to enrollment. The federal is in gray at the top, and you can see that there's large amounts this year and next year, and then that will also start to reduce as well. House Bill 1814, also known as the Open Enrollment Bill, was voted out of the Senate Education Committee just less than a week ago, and is now eligible to be placed on the Senate calendar for debate. If it passes as proposed now, this is what might happen. A student can leave a resident district to attend a different district that starts at 23-24. For the first 2 years, the districts can limit the number of students to 5%. Normally, at 5% of our students go to a different district, and that's about $1 million reduction just in state funds. In 25, 26, and beyond, or year 3, any percentage of students may leave the district. The receiving district may say, you know what, I look at your discipline record, and we're not going to accept you, but we will accept the folks who have a better discipline record. So that's another indication of this bill if it follows. The money follows the children. As we know, that leads us to a lot of uncertainty with regard to revenue streams. It kind of forces districts to compete in some ways for students, where we focus more and more on marketing and recruitment and less on the teaching and learning that we're doing. And certainly the districts where students exit will have more resources. Also, we can see a loss of community support as the number of families who are here supporting us, if their children don't go here, then they're less likely to be as engaged. So there's an attached handout from the collaborative group that's aligned with Molasco and NSC there for you as board members. And if you want to talk to your legislator about it, or others in the community about how this could be harmful to so that's the revenue. We didn't really talk about the possible implications of what this hospital can do, but we know that it could create some uncertainty for the issue. Let's talk about expenditures. We know that our key expenditures will be spent down generally next year. Our relief funds will generally be spent down next year. An assumption we can make is for next year is a 4% salary and benefits overall increase. That includes nearly a 6% increase for teachers. We'll talk about that in light of action. It does assume a ramping down of money that we're spending to address learning loss, because that's the federal money that's going to be starting to tail off. So I think it's important that a major thing for next year's budget and for the next year's planning is that we have to be mindful of how we manage any federal funds that are going towards learning loss, whether they're going to pay salaries for ELDs and others. And as this revenue starts to go away, how do we reimagine the districts going forward when these outside sources of funding are no longer coming in? You can see the next graph with the orange line. The blue expenditures generally assume consistent spending. We continue to spend at about the same level. You can see that the fund balances decline. It's lower than over 2% in 25.6. So we just have to be mindful of that. Let's zero in on a handful of different categories of spending and how we've had some variances this year and how that's tied to ESSER and what are the implications for what we spend on these categories next year. The main categories are IT, curriculum instruction, executive leadership and communications, HR, support services, operational plan. All those saw gains in their expense categories this fiscal year as budgeted compared to the average of 4 prior years. One notable reduction is early childhood, and that's largely because with the pandemic we eliminated a number of positions because we needed to expand social distancing in the classroom. We're going to return to the original levels for early childhood is next year's budget. So you can see that we are investing, we're spending our federal funds in these areas. But also that these areas are tied to our strategic plan. When we think about IT, we think about curriculum instruction, we think about leadership and district organization of goals. This is all tied to these goals. On the next slide, you can see that a number of these expense categories are pretty well funded through federal funds. That graph with blue and orange bars on it shows that we are using a lot of federal money to further these strategic initiatives. Let's zoom in on IT. For this year, IT is scheduled to be about $3 million over our 4-year average. But much of this, 46% of it is federal funded through emergency relief systems. This includes our district-wide intercom safety system, about $1.1 billion, cameras and microphones, clever screens associated with Prop B. We're happy to have our chief information officer, which is a new expense for this year, and others. We feel like we're now more ready to engage with students online than we certainly were in 4 prior years. We just hadn't thought to pivot to remote learning, and we invested in it, and now I feel like it feels a little more nimble. Many of these one-time expenses will reduce because they're not so much recurring. Let's look at curriculum and instruction. Curriculum instruction is about $2 million over the 4-year average. And that's tied to the strategic goal of professional development, high quality embedded professional development, such as ELDs and instructional leads, instructional taxonomies, and rigorous curriculum. As you might remember Mr. Rodman was saying, we've taken on 3 new curricula in a very short period of time because we believe that's what the plan is, what students need. But it's ambitious if there's some costs. Eduity, extra pay, extra duty for training, and professional development incentive for staff are a big part of a lot of effort in instruction purposes. We look at the executive leadership, communications priorities. I've thought about how to reorganize leadership structure, our desire to build staff morale, fairly hard time for educators as we're emerging from the pandemic and have fears of safety. Really focus on culture, focus on attendance, and the number of the ELDs also happen to be paid through this gap as well. Human resources, attracting and retaining quality staff, we're about $1.5 million over our 4-year average. We know that this is one of our #1 priorities, and we're sharing as Mr. Montrose mentioned, and others. We need subs, outsourced nurses, vaccination incentives, as well as the DESI retention grant through human resources. So we believe that is what we want to put our chips into to do well. Next is support services. We're about $1.3 million over our 4-year average. This focuses on attendance, culture, student health, response to COVID, student records, school uniforms, attendance clerks, and other services, many of which are related to COVID as well as attendance. So you can see that all of these generally are tied to our strategic plan, but we all need to be mindful of which of these are going to start to roll off of our spending, because this is something that we're not going to be able to sustain for a long time. Operational plan, we're about $1 million over our 4-year average. Some of that comes from COVID-related response. A lot of that comes from salary increases and filled positions. I got to say, when we talk about operations plan, I just want to real quick mention our facility director, Randy Shipley. Randy has taken on in very large amount of work. I got to say, when I started as a CFO at 18, 19, 19, 20, we had basically a full-time equivalent staff member who ran all the bond projects for Prop Ed. So this person worked with our construction manager and went to every meeting and knew everything, was kind of a resident expert. We don't have that now. That was a $26 million project. We're working now with maybe about $45 million. We don't have that full-time equivalent, and Randy's really taking that on. That's one of the issues the board is aware of Randy's commitment to all that. But Randy leads that operational plan space that also has a budget variance for this year. This all has implications for our fiscal year 23 initial budget priorities. We're building up a huge and we ask the board to approve the budget. Let's look at some of those big initial budget priorities. Really big one, teacher pay increase. We want to be competitive with the region. We move into number 8 out of 21 regional districts with regard to the highest starting pay. We're about 1,300 over the mean, the average for this year among all the other districts in the area. In addition to being the first district in the area, thanks to our board to push us on this, the first district in the area where everyone earns $50 an hour or more. We also will be in the district with this new salary scale that the board approved tonight, where the most advanced senior teachers with the highest degree are earning more than any other district. So we're looking at a maximum number on every scale from this year. Clicking that thing tops out about $1,000 less than what we top out. So we believe with the salary scale that we're betting on our teachers and going to need to stay with us and to know that once you have seniority, you're not going to start to have a reduced increase as you become a better teacher. What you get, you're 2.25% like everybody else. So we want to attract teachers with that. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. But that's one of our biggest initial budget priorities for next year, as well as the classified staff. We really need to look at all the new FTEs that we kind of built with some of this federal money and to align with our strategic priorities, and we want to continue those. So that's going to be, they weren't necessarily in this year's budget that the board approved in June, and we need to think about, well, they need to be in next year's budget. So that's a key piece. For medical benefits, our initial projection, we do have a benefits committee meeting a week from tomorrow that involves teachers and staff and our insurance broker. The initial calculation is looking like there's about a 9% increase in cost if we want to shield staff from paying any additional costs. So our assumption is that right now that is our goal. We don't want our staff to pay additional costs for medical. We're assuming we're not going to really be able to afford to improve services because we already did that this year. But we do want to shield staff, and so that's going to be a priority. Some FTEs that we're looking to, that we feel like we need to add is an ELL teacher as our population of English language learners grows. Additional custodians, once the superintendent is ready for this building. We want to rehire preschool teaching assistants. And what's under consideration, and it's been debated among the cabinet members in the superintendent's office, has been Dr. Ryder's, as you think about Dr. Ryder's presentation and ELEs and instructional taxonomy work that she's doing. There's discussion on whether multiple additional FTEs should be added to next year's budget to continue building further on the work Dr. Ryder's doing. For IT, we have some switches and other major device upgrades that we need to work on. For capital, this summer, we got a $1 million HVAC agreement with Washington Middle for temperature regulation. This is a special one I'm just going to talk about briefly. It was already approved in the consent agenda, but I want to bring the side notes to your attention. With the board's encouragement, especially Ron Roberts, it should be noted that Normandy has started a new intentional and deliberate process to develop an ongoing list of contractors and subcontractors to whom we will solicit upcoming district projects. The board and the district are committed to expanding outreach opportunities, especially to local businesses, including Untitled Chapter. We wanted to make sure that the community is aware of this outreach to create opportunities for businesses to engage with district projects. When I come in, we want to make sure that we're being transparent and clear that we're reaching out to invite subcontractors and contractors to participate. So again, I come back to the point of key decisions in the next year will involve among the recurring initiatives that we have, what's our liaison plan? Because we're kind of an optimal state right now in terms of spending and not to be able to sustain for years and years. So that's really good thing about recovery. But there's also sometimes spending rent money on a one-time piece, you don't have to worry about that. And so the final topic I want to bring up tonight is a one-time expense. That's the already approved for us to spend ESSER money on. And I want to show the board our plan, and if without concerns from the board, we'll go ahead and proceed with this. And that is to expand learning for students in athletic spaces through this campus. As we look over at Eddie's Hall and the two gyms that have been there for a long time, they weren't optimal gyms. Those are going to be turning into the new library. The libraries are turning into lower commons, and the students are without some gym space that they needed, even if it was a suboptimal gym space in the past. We do have our West Gym complex behind us, but just next to West Gym, we've got initial discussions with our current architect to look at what would it take to build a 16,000, 17,000 square foot space with multiple spaces for students to exercise, and not just high school students, but it could serve as a hub for the district, for students to have weekend events, tournaments, and even the community to be involved in as well. It will have an updated building envelope and HVAC system, therefore improving air quality. And this has been addressed. The initial cost estimate right now is $5.4 million. That includes about $300,000 in contingency, about $800,000, escalation. Building costs continue to go up, and we hope that those numbers will track. It should be noted that this does not include a construction manager fee in it, so we're going to have to look at what that rate would be, and we can use, see if construction manager can participate with us at a less than full-time rate. There's an area, just basically the practice field, which we've been playing baseball, earlier before the meeting. And it's not attractive now, but we can envision it being an attractive space. Design considerations, we've got about retaining walls, grade changes, ADA access, civil engineering, canopy. We know what we're looking at. We plan to initiate an RFQ for architect. I know we've had TRF for a long time, but Ron is the board member who's been involved with this, and Mark's team. We feel it's time for a new RFQ. Park Group has RFQs and RFPs every 5 years, even if it's a long-term partner, if we can see what tools is out there. The draft schedule would be we issue the RFQ for design very soon. The design work happens this summer. Topping the Park Group we will present next. One idea to accelerate the plan is to include the grounds work, the civil plan, subgrade elevation, and underground work. Include that as part of the bus lot work that's going on. So we get that done in the fall, so we're not doing the underground work in the winter time. And that should make it easier to get this done by the start of the school year. There are a lot of uncertainties there, but I wanted to put this in front of you in a formal way. I haven't done that yet, but it's an informal conversation, but I wanted to make sure that the board understood that we're kind of pursuing this direction unless there's pushback or other concerns. At this time, I'll pause and see if I'll stop. Take any questions.
I just had a quick question. I guess everyone will inquire. What's the current budget estimate for the West Indian expansion? What's that number?
$5.4 million. That's not including construction manager. We would look at it at a part-time basis. That a low percentage of construction costs.
Any questions? Yes, you.
You were working with the teachers for the 5 years out there talking about. We have been able to do everything else. Cost, and we said it was going to cost, right?
That's a good point. The first estimate that we had was higher than that. It was closer to $7 million. Our team looked at that $7 million and said, I don't know, that's really high. So we decided to get a second opinion. And their estimate was 5.4. Desi's approved 6, so I feel like we can save at 6. Our fund balances are in a solid position. And it's a one-time cost. We also feel like there's some value engineering that we can pursue with this. We could strip it down more than what's already in the 5.4 as well. So, but that's a good question.
The athletic department, look at this is something they want. The athletic department.
It was really one of the first things I asked. When we did our initial supervisor before we on mission on the table, they were concerned that there wasn't enough gym floor space here at the high school. Kids were getting too late because of the municipal fire and the inability to really use the east for the practice community. That being said, see what the practice place to put it was off of West Plains. But the goal is to extend that brick structure the way it currently is. It'll actually be a metal structure attached to something we call a field house, which is much less building technology. And if you try to like imagine what we're doing.
They'll be like, people could actually watch it.
So like when we had it as part of politician team, initially no, it was just going to be practice space. But in the last year, we've evolved concepts that it is spectator space. So, that's
Kay, Ethan, he's going to take a deeper dive on actual construction pricing, to get closer towards reality, notwithstanding the fluctuation in the market. And as it relates to local participation, MW participation, I just want to applaud Gina, Randy, and Dr. Terry, because they really have responded to our concerns about making sure that the RFP, RFQ process is extensively transparent. So, appreciate that.
Thank you for your presentation, Dr. Terry. I just would like to echo Director Williams' sentiments and specifically today. As we move forward with projects like this, I believe the community would like to see these projects completed with a minimal number of change orders.
If I can respond to that a little bit, I do feel like we learned from something by pre-qualifying our general contractor. We didn't do that the first 2 times. When we did do that, we're seeing a market reduction in change orders for the firm that was among the pre-qualified ones. The very first time we just went with basically the lowest bidder, actually the first 2 times. And for us, there's a correlation there. We are committed to the pre-qualification for general contractors, even if that means sometimes we say no to the lowest bidder. You know how it goes. Sometimes somebody may present a little bit, but then there's other ways to do that. And Kay, certainly debates our contractors for change orders to the extent of fund rowdiness, I guess you could say.
Well, I guess the other factor too is getting to a certain precision from an architectural standpoint, such that you have not only drawings that are 100% complete, but they feel verified, so that the contractor doesn't come to the table and open up a wall and surprise. We get to a space and find out what the dimensions are all. And so, given the speed of how we try to get it done, because we're both using this space as well as reconstructing the space. Candidly, the architectural firm has been lacking in the accuracy of some of their drawings, which led to a situation where we found ourselves in construction and needing a bid. So, putting this West Gym out for other architectural firms, I think will get us to a place where we not only maintain the speed of construction that we need, but the accuracy which will reduce those changes.
Final point would be some of the change orders have been in our coalition where we examined the plan and said, you know what, students need something better than this. For example, culinary arts learning space and a lot of lockers as well. So there are some occasions when it's been our choice to initiate the change order just for full. If there are any other questions, if there's no other questions, we can continue with discussion updates.
Good evening, I'm Marcus Snowby with KI, I'm the construction manager for Chapter Projects. I'm joined by my manager.
Mike Kennedy, CEO of KI.
I'm going to keep this on my laptop, I think that's a little away. But I'll go through our report for this month. First on the West Hall construction update, we're obviously fairly well complete on this project. We have a couple items upstairs which are the corner so we could talk about before. There were a bunch of changes there that got incorporated late. The contractor has reinitiated everything and has a July completion date for that. The most recent holdup was some of the kitchen equipment. We're experiencing a lot of delays just in material procurement in general, but they're making good headway now. We've restarted the work on the north wall, which will finally connect West Hall with Central Hall on every level. That's part of this continuous connection interior once the connector is complete, get all the buildings linked together, make the entire facility accessible. So with West Hall, we've got the north wall, like I said, on our arts quickly. We're still leaves some punch list items when we get in around kids. The building's fully under, being used by the students, or the teachers, so we try to avoid them as much as possible. We've got a few pictures in the report. Should be showing up here in a second. The major items that go upstairs now, you'll see the vent hoods for all the new ovens in the culinary arts space. That was really the first step before we start doing the other ovens and mechanical connections. And believe it or not, the hold up on these was not a hood themselves, it was a metal panel on the wall behind us. It's something new every day. It's installation one day, it's the next. Sheet of stainless steel. I've got the reports in here by each contract. Our paving contractor is complete. That's the West Pavement. Right construction and the general contractor in this project. Again, they just have a few items left to complete. They'll work with some of the projects. They're also the contractor on the connector, so they're not going anywhere. We'll keep them around. All the training equipment in this building is installed. It's not all up and running yet. Some of the equipment is powered through the connection wall at the link. It is an dedicated outdoor air unit, so it's not even the cooling. It's more efficient. The food service equipment in this building, we have two separate contracts. We have actually multiple purchasing opportunities. Some of the contracts before food service, some development. This is reported here. All that equipment is here installed, so that's all fine. We have the Coach's Kitchen. That's also all development supply equipment. The next project is a secure connector. That's the new construction out there on the corner. We've got the excavation and remediation complete. The building is nearly backfilled, finished, subgrade. Putting the foundation work is continuing. I would say we're suffering from the weather, trying to make as much progress as possible. For those of you who may have arrived early, you might have seen the concrete pump truck still here at 5 this evening. I think you guys are doing to 6. And that's again just trying to make up for the rain we had the last really number of days, every other day. It seems like it's about that at least as easy as possible. And the way it's happening out there, we have a place that's upgraded, compacted. It has to be tested by an outside agency to make sure it's compacted under the right pressure. That gauge can't come out in the rain, so there's all these restrictions on it. That's why I heard in my discussion with Phil earlier about the West Gym expansion, that project was forward, to try to strategize a way to get that earthwork done in the fall or summer, rather than wait until the December start, where we're stuck in the same kind of conditions we are now. Earth is frozen, the ground's too wet to dry out, we have to pay much money to haul in the farm. So you see some pictures in the report of what's going out there with the footings and foundations. That's scheduled to be done in the next 2 weeks. I don't think I'll make that date, but the 25th is the day that the steel is supposed to be arriving. So by our next board meeting, we see the steel stand come out. So again, in the report, you've got the reports on each contractor, specifically where they are financially and for their schedule. If you have any questions on those, feel free to ask. The pending contracts on the connector really, ones that are outstanding are the office furniture and the public area furniture. The architects are working on those, and when they're ready, we'll issue them first order. Moving on then to the next project, which is Central and East Hall. Those are all under one contract with all construction. The renovation of East Hall is well underway now. We are continuing to do some value engineering, considering fewer ways to save some money. And we're finalizing some corner allowance items relative to the finishes in the lower counties, the library, and the small level. Demolition work is done on the 3rd floor completely. Second floor is nearly completed. They're on the first floor now. Yeah, I think you get a chance to walk through there. This is the photo. We've got the new interior framing started. Mostly all the restrooms are framed up. A lot of the plumbing work is done in the plumbing walls. The teaching walls in all the classrooms are on the second and third floor when we're framed up. The third floor actually has an electrical light start, the wall blocking. We plastered a couple of the rooms to repair the damaged plaster and had that reviewed on Monday. got a solution that will finish. Can't collect the homeowners or the collect. So the abatement status, East Hall is complete. We have had the abatement contractor come back a couple of times to do some miscellaneous pipe that was exposed behind lockers, behind wall faces. They are on task to do Central Hall as well, when we're ready to start that project. So here are the images. You'll see the demolition. Building looks drastically different than any time we walked in there in the recent future. This contractor is doing a great job with cleanliness and safety, far above what we've seen in the past. So we're all nice and safe and walking there. Some of these images are of the classroom walls, new teaching walls. They get all the new technology for the smart boards, whiteboards, data jacks, and then the surrounding walls, if we finish classroom. The furnishings will be very similar to West Hall, except for these rooms and carpets, so and they're in. Again, I have the contract reports in here for the payment folks and for the general contractor. The training equipment is on order. They're experiencing the same thing for everybody. The chip shortage is affecting particularly the controls of mechanical equipment. So we're pushing to get the equipment shipped so we can install it and potentially have to come back and install controls after that. If you've heard before, this is shipping trucks without chips in them. There's dealers are selling them to people without chips in them. We're coming back there installing the chips, so we're using that same mentality. We have to proceed with construction. The equipment has to be in the ceiling so we can finish the ceiling. Let's get the stuff here, let's get it installed, let's figure out how to fix the chip issue. Last item in the report is an update on our project utilization. I have a whole report in here, but I'll go through some of the details. To date, we have, in the business utilization side, we've contracted with 36.77% of the contracts that are on the minority-owned businesses. That's $12.7 million of construction costs and contracted with these firms. I've listed all the firms here, you're curious who they are. That's 36% means a goal of 25%. So we can do all that. Contrary to the women-owned business side, we've got nearly $1 million contracted with women-owned firms. That's 2.8%, and your goal is 5%. So we're coming short there. We'll continue to find ways to get better diversity on that. Workforce utilization. This is actually boots on the ground. This is the folks swinging the hammers, using the equipment. Our minority workforce today is 5,500 hours, so about 19.5%. Female workforce today is considerably lower, 274 hours, or less than 1%. You have a goal of a combined workforce of 35%, and we're at 20.5%. I did leave the note on there from our last discussion for reference, the $1.7 million HDA West project. They released some statistics last October. Their workforce was about 23.7%. Combined, 80% minority, 5.7%. So, in the region, we're tracking a little lower than that. It's a difficult market. But we're continuing that conversation with our contractors. We have been continuing with our student outreach. That's been kind of a fun sidebar to our activity out here. One of our team members, Sam Richardson, really taking the lead on working with the high school staff to get the program up and running. Just, actually, it's 3, but it was actually 4 8. We had an event in the cafeteria. We had 15 students participate. Our staff and some staff from some of our subcontractors participated. We've got several students working through a program called FWCA, which allows them to be paid to participate in some of our programs, which has gradually increased the number of kids who want to participate, which is great. During some of these sessions, and as the student informs, we kind of get an idea what the students want to learn about. It's not all about construction or design or engineering, some of it is variety. They did express some interest in music or entrepreneurship, and my co-worker Dan has a connection with DJ Tech. So it was never he called us on DJ Tech. Actually, it was in Dr. Griffith's office, I believe. We saw a poster on the wall. DJ Tech offers $1,000 scholarship to a Norman session with kids, talked about his career, entrepreneurship, talked about scholarships as well. So that was great opportunity for folks to connect and meet somebody in the business. So Stan's continuing to develop that program, and we're going to see where it goes. There's a lot of just discovery what the kids want to hear about. Some of that is just us telling our stories, so they can ask some questions. There's been interest in some construction careers, that hopefully we can help them connect with folks and get some sort of internship going. That's kind of the ultimate goal, is to have one of these big positions actually connect with one of our contractors and end up with a job either on this project or somewhere else. So that's the ultimate goal. We're taking those steps at the time trying to get going. So with that, I'm open to answer any questions.
Any questions? Any questions?
Excuse me?
FWCA, what does it stand for?
That was still here.
Anybody else?
I can read you the answer. I'm going to still tell me that.
Any questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item is 9.01, 21-22 budget amendment.
So, for anybody new, or if you'd like just a refresher, you look at this every board meeting, this right here. Let me just walk you through some of the most important things on here to look for. Number one, at the bottom is the estimated end of year fund balance on the front page. That's how much money we have, essentially. That's how we're doing with regard to our money that we're able to spend as a percentage of our overall operating expenditures. In 2018-19, the board recommended that we not go below 15%, because 15% is about what we need to make sure we're going to pay everybody's bills, pay everybody's make payroll in December, which is our low cash flow month. That's right before all property tax comes in, and our fund balances are actually the lowest then. So 15% is our goal. So that's an important thing to look at. Right now, we're at 22.33%, which is pretty solidly above that 15%. You can see going back prior years how we've been on fund balance. On the far right column is year-to-date, that's what we've spent so far. On the right is the next one over to the left is proposed in red, and that's what we're asking you to vote on. Amended is the last time the board approved it, and that was in January. It was the last time the board approved the updated budget. And approved is what the board approved way back in June. So we know things have changed since then. Fairly quickly, we're down a couple percentage points for the year fund balance. Last year we ended at 25.08%. We're projected to end conservatively about 22% now. We have $7.15 billion of expenditures already spent this year through federal relief funds. About 4.5 of that is operating, and about 2.5 of that of those expenditures are capital. If we continue to spend this way, if we didn't have federal relief funds, then our end-of-year fund balance would be about 13.5. So we're spending less than that money. This is also keeping in line with our strategic goals. Some major variances from the last time we were with this in January. ESSER, we added a lot more ESSER money to come in. We also added a lot more ESSER money to go out. Just weren't sure of the timing of it. This also includes a new teaching retention grant for $240,000, which wasn't yet in the budget back in January. Looks like we're going to have a little more basic formula money than we initially thought, about $300,000 more. Delinquent taxes, nearly $300,000 more. Classroom trust fund, a little more than we thought last time as well. Title I has an updated allocation, more funds there. And then we're a couple less in a couple areas, largely due to some coding errors that we had in the code, some revenue to a different account. Expenses, just like our revenue is going up, our ESSER, our construction has gone up, and we recognize the timing of our spending. Our HR-related central supports has gone up a solid amount since January, prorated 1,000. A lot of this is subs. A lot of this is teacher recruitment and retention grant, which we don't have to spend this year. It's just in this year's budget. This also includes a procedure change whereby for this year, 100% of tuition is reimbursed. We recognize the climate of teachers, and we made the staff decision to go ahead and change the procedure of tuition reimbursement. Normally, that's prorated based on what the demand is, but this year, because of all the federal funds and because teacher retention is a goal, we went ahead and reimbursed 100% tuition. Pausing our procedure prorate reimbursements based on the amount of budget. A number of other areas, some other areas went up. Some of the areas that went down, we're not spending as much on eligible salary benefits and supplies as we thought, largely because there's a large number of unfilled positions. And mental transportation has also gone down very less than we thought. With that, any questions before the board votes on this amended budget? Any questions?
Something about, I know what it was, phase out. We're looking at a lot of money that was spent this year over what we spent 4 years. And we're also looking at that if we got those students back, we don't have, for example, where are their salaries now?
Their salaries go back in fund balances.
And now, so when are you going to start this phase out stuff of the estimate expense?
The phase out of the capital expenses is pretty clear. We've got a pretty clear map of what the capital one-time expenses are. I think it's going to be a real key decision of the income superintendent and their dialogue with the board on what the priorities will be coming in. Because there's only so much. And talking about your presentation on curriculum, and there's probably multiple opinions on how we would best spend these limited resources. I think we have some time to make this decision. The budget is going to basically make sure everything that we're certain on will be included, and there'll be a little wiggle room for the superintendent to help back that direction.
The longer we fund things, the more accustomed people are to that. Just take this 100% reimbursement thing. Okay. I might be that year that I'm doing it. I may get that next year. He's doing it. Just get it. We got to be very clear on what we're doing. Okay.
I think Sarah and I will communication up on that and make sure that everybody knows this is a one-time reimbursement and we need to look after the procedure following this. So thank you for that. Any other questions?
Okay, if there's no other questions, could I get a motion to approve the 21-22 budget amendment? So moved. Can I get a second? Second. It's been properly moved and second that the 21-22 budget amendment would be approved. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Aye. All those contrary? All right, next item up is 9.02, approval of the 22-23 teacher salary scale.
We recommend that the board approve a one-step salary increase for Normandy staff who are on the teacher scale. The salary scale is attached to the folder. This updated scale starts at $43,775 for teachers with a bachelor's degree. And that's up from the $40,000 that such teachers earned at Normandy this year. In addition, this revised scale includes a 2.25 step increases throughout the scale, boosting the amount of lifetime earnings for teachers who choose to stay with Normandy for much of their career. We want our teachers to see themselves entirely staying with us and continuing to earn wages that have a better chance of staying above inflation and cost of living. This scale does end at step 27 for teachers in the bachelor's column. That's the new method. And it ends in step 29 for teachers in the bachelor's plus 15 column. That's to professional learning to enhance their craft, that is, to get a master's and continue to learn with other teachers as they get better. Said teachers are welcome to apply for one of these tuition reimbursement programs as pursued. This decision was made in collaboration with the IUPs, and as Mr. Humphrey mentioned earlier today at Jefferson City, the team held 5 full-day meetings over approximately 40 hours in February and March. Explored shared interests, specific concerns, possible root causes of concerns, and we identified action steps for improvement. There were 6 teachers on the NDA there, concerned director, and 2 board members that was time with us is Williams and Mr. Humphrey. Superintendent, principal, and a couple of admin staff members, Jason and myself. So this is a collaborative document that we spent time on and putting together in collaboration with the NDA. This scale does also offer an additional $2,500 per year for teachers who have national board certification at the start of the year and continue to maintain said certification. Teachers to be able to continue to get that certification with distinction. With these changes, the overall premium for teachers would be 5.8%, which builds on the 4.83% increase that teachers received this year. The overall budget impact for next year will be $1.12 billion, and it will be included in the budget. Are there any questions on the teacher salaries?
Any questions? Any questions? If there's no questions, can I get a motion to approve the 22-23 teacher salary scale? Can I get a second? It's been properly moved in second. The second is not illegal. It's been properly moved in second that the 22-23 teacher salary scale will be approved. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Aye. Anybody not heard? The salary scale is adopted as presented. And I thank everyone for the work that they put in on that salary schedule, because the intent of the conversation was to support the district around recruitment and retention. And as he said earlier, in one of the earlier statements, that this particular salary schedule probably puts us somewhere within the top 10 districts in the region in terms of compensation. And we wanted to be in a position to better compete, because the way it was before at 40,000, we were kind of a district of last concern as they went to other places. So we're now in a more competitive posture. And the other thing about this is that it recognizes longevity, because the teacher stays with normally, it rivals the salary schedule of Clayton and some other comparable schools. So I think it's an excellent statement to put in front of teachers that we do value them and that we put our money where our mouth is. And so at this point, it's time to go to work and help kids get better. The next thing we have up here is 9.03, which is the East Hall change order from metal to phenolic lockers with a budget impact of $270,209.
Good evening, folks. For those of you who've been around this transformation of Norman High School, you know it's like a love. You know that we have been trying to be as precise as we can possibly be in delivering on the type of space that our students said that they wanted from us. So before we even started the design process, we sat down with students to say what are you looking for in the school. And they didn't talk about technology. They didn't talk about particular types of classroom furniture. They talked about home. This is their home away from home. This is the place where they experience family. And then no matter what they would open into this space, they want to make sure that A, it was safe, and B, that it felt comfortable. And so, in alignment with that, we're presenting to you tonight a change in body technology. And I'll pass this around to you. First, I'm going to show you, I would not recommend it, but I thought you ought to be aware of it because you're in this business. This is high density, and so The great thing about this is you can't tear it up. The bad thing about it is it looks very juvenile. So if we were building an elementary school, it might be something that we would want to talk about. I put that on the table because given the condition of Bell North, we're going to need to build an elementary school. Especially if our enrollment continues to increase as opposed to decline. So be aware of this technology. What the architects initially spec'd for the space was a metal locker, which is fairly traditional. We all recognize it from places where we went to high school. The great difficulty with those metal lockers is in an environment like ours, they take beating. You can take your key out, you can scratch anybody's name or profanity into that metal locker. They're very easy to vandalize. And the concern ultimately is even when we paint over those deep scratches, once you walk up to the surface, you can still see that it has been scratched. And whatever they may say about the brothers, it's still printed in that material. What we're proposing is a phenolic product. I encourage you, if you'd like to try to beat up that black cube with your key, if you like. But the phenolic product is something that we came across when we were thinking about the partition in our bathrooms. And if you actually check out these bathrooms here on your way out, you'll see that instead of the metal stainless steel partition, we're using phenolic partition because you can hit it with a permanent marker, that thing will come right off. Ink pen, you can't scratch it. It's extremely durable. The other great thing about the phenolic product is not just that it resists vandalism, but as you can see from the second swatch, we can match the stains on our doors. We can come in with a spa level gray. We can bring a different kind of warmth to the table with the phenolic that you can't really bring to the table. The quiet lockers, we believe they'll be durable. As you might know, the DuPort Watkins did a big transformation of their high school. And when they redid the new high school, they went in with phenolic lockers. So they're going to be quieter, they're going to be warmer, and we believe will contribute to the homey feel of what Norman High School is to be. I said a year ago, Norman High School is going to have to be a 7-day, 12-month facility. We have too much work to do. Even when we catch our kids up, we're going to need to step up a little rigor in high school. That's going to mean that once we get over the credit recovery tsunami, we're still going to have to deal with what it means to get higher and higher levels of college placement, college tuition. All that being said, it has to be the kind of place that kids want to be. And we believe that this product helps to enhance all of the design features that we brought to the table in that regard. The actual number is less than what is presented. I think we're actually 268. 273. Right, so it's actually less than this movie ran so it's actually 268. So that would mean all of the lockers, 750 of them, Central Hall and East Hall, would be changed to the phenolic. We believe over time will still be beautiful, that you'll be able to come in here 15 years from now without us having to pay or having to put serious work into those lockers. Yes, ma'am. The license. Other questions?
Any other questions? Yes. You mentioned that there are other high schools using this material as lockers. Are they using these in the general area? Just did a quick Google search, and this looks like the stuff in locker rooms.
Yeah, I would say, there's times that there are probably some high-end fitness centers that would use them in a locker room area. They're very durable. Yeah, I would tell you that in the product that is just done to do with that. There you go. You put your visit in the weird. Any other questions?
In the board docs, there was a document relative to this.
essentially, one of the contractors has recommended if we're gonna go with finale, and instead of like having a hinge top to bottom, to have a really long hinge that goes all the way down, that will further secure the locker and be making the door more secure.
At an additional cost.
It will be, well, it is,
Oh, it's included in
yes,
this.
sir.
Other questions? Is there a motion to approve this change order for phenomenal lodgers? Second. It's been moved and second that this will be approved. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Aye. Opposed. Okay, you have one opposition to that? Yes. She abstains. And my vote is yes. At this point, we're at the end of the regular agenda. The board comments, Pat, any other comments? Scanning, any comments?
So did you move some items off consent onto items for action for further discussion? Is that the one, excuse me, motion?
No, these particular items that he was asking that they would be moved off of the consent agenda. Now, were you asking them to be moved for items for action, or you want them to come up at a future meeting?
I think they're ready to present if you did want to do items for action.
You could.
No, I don't.
Okay, you said no item for action, so we'll need to take a look at that, and it'll be brought forward in the future. And so that's for, that's 6.03, 6.08, 6.09, and 6.22. Those are the items that would have future consideration. Mr. Neal, any comments?
No, I just want to thank Dr. Ryder and her team. I think running the Saturday Academy or the Sunday Academy is a lot for everyone. So thank you to the whole team that's working on those days.
And likewise, I would like to, because we have Saturday and Sunday school is the yeoman's task, because I know that the number of kids that are trying to get to the finish line of credit recovery is a huge number, so I do recognize and appreciate the work. I also want to briefly say over the month, I had an opportunity to go to several meetings to represent the district. I was at the recent NSC conference, Sheila Williams and I was there. Also, I attended the diversity and inclusion conference that was held at Huntsville. I basically participated in an interview on behalf of the district of Channel 5, and then also Sheila and I attended the monthly municipal private meeting. And so with that, once again, I thank everyone for the work they've done on behalf of the district. And I would personally like to say, as president for tonight, I appreciate all the support that I've gotten from board members. I appreciate working with the administration in this capacity, and I look forward to supporting the new leadership as we go forward with the things that we need to do to make Normandy the best school that we can for children. Sheila, your comments? Did you have any comments? Okay, comments?
Just want to thank the Normandy community for supporting this election. This is a very important time for our community, and we don't take for granted this opportunity to serve. And so I speak for myself and Dr. Petty. It is an honor to be a part of this new era and elected board members and the return to local control. And you have my personal commitment to continue to give as much energy and faith to this effort as those who have served before us. Thank you for your service, and to those who are not here tonight, thank you for your interest.
All right, with that being said, can I get a motion to move to adjourn this particular meeting? We're going to go into a very brief executive session after this meeting. So can I get a motion to adjourn? Can I get a second? It's been probably moved to second that this meeting will adjourn. All those in favor? If we don't move into the session, I think Rocky said there's a small room over here on the hallway. So this is everyone who is before. We'll do a very quick meeting. The conversation with Mark is that he'll leave